G'day to the TryPod community. Welcome to the TryPod Live with Winny and Clarkey. This is our Round 8 preview of Anzac Round. Before we start, a quick message from Winny and I. We want to acknowledge and thank all our service men and women, past and present, and recognise their commitment to making Australia the greatest country in the world. Lest we forget their sacrifices, and we definitely appreciate it. We're with you for the next hour to preview 6 games. We won't preview the Tuesday ones just yet. But before we get to all that, let me welcome in my co-host, Winny. How you going, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. And that includes respect to yourself, mate. I don't know if everyone knows you've served in the Air Force and you're still currently involved. Sorry, the Navy, and you're still involved in the Defence Force currently. Not everyone may know that. Hopefully our internet connection's all right. I feel like we're off to a patchy start, and some people, I hope you're not too disappointed that we will cover Anzac Day on Monday. Slightly different configuration of pods. We're going to do Monday night pod, not Sunday. We're going to recap the 6 games and then preview the double header because they're so far away and we've got a kind of a split round. So slightly shorter pod, 6 games, still got 2 best bets to share. But even before that, I've got to admit, as we went into in the recap, I was down in the dumps. Worst round of the season for best bets, 1 and 3. The 3 losses all had a shot, but a shot isn't good enough. The one winner won easily in the Eels. We lost the mixed matchup on the back of not good enough best bets. We did win the same game at $8, which on that front is ridiculous. We've won 3 of 6 same gamers, $7 plus odds. So that's outstanding. Mixed matchup record is 4 and 3, which is great at an underdog price. Best bet 10 and 10. That sucks. What more can I say? But I just keep striving to be better, and I'll share my favorite bets for the round, which, as I said, I have a pair of them. Have I got you, Clarkey?
Yeah, I've got you, mate.
Oh, you're waiting for me. Sorry. I thought I was throwing back to you.
Hey, to everyone watching, if my Wi-Fi is lagging, you let me know. I'll kick the missus and my daughter off Netflix and Disney Plus. My apologies there, guys, for staring at you. Obviously, I'm pretty good looking, but I'm sure you
were so still. You were so still. I thought it was frozen. Okay, look, I've got one more thing to say about best bets. We thank Lana for their commitment, their sponsorship of the first 8 Wednesday shows of the year. You guys saw that they brought us the best bets. Look, they haven't bailed on us because the results haven't been good enough. We've just seen out that promotion. We have no best bet sponsor. If you're a business owner and that kind of level of promotion to the audience that we've got, along with Clarkey's page, interests you, reach out to us. We maybe a new best bet sponsor could bring some new luck, but hopefully we won't need it this week. I've got 2 plays. On the very first 2 games of the round, I am on the 2 underdogs. I'm taking the Rabbitohs plus 6.5 at $1.81 on Better, as well as on Sportsbet. They're playing the back-to-back premiers, the Panthers. And then I'm going the Parramatta Eels plus 2.5 at $1.90 on Dabble, or $1.89 also on Better. And they play the Broncos in Darwin. And the reasoning is similar for both. I think they're both cracking games. I can't see much between the sides. I think everyone's motivated. Everyone's going to bring it. And therefore, I'm going to take the points because I think real chances of an upset in both games, and I wouldn't even see them as big upsets. But how would you see these ones, Clarkey?
Mate, I'll tell you what, I'm really keen on that Eels tip there. I've got some stats that the Eels really do play well up there in Darwin. But I will admit, I'm surprised not to see the Knights there for you. I know you're high on the Knights this year, and they are favoured with a bit of a head start there against the Cowboys at home. And we've kind of talked about how the Cowboys have been disappointing this year. Any reason in particular why you strayed off that game?
I have several reasons, actually, but I can share them when we get to that game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, well, we will get into the 6 games. Before we do that, we're going to go to Tristan, the CEO of Top Sport. He's going to give an exclusive look into the market. We've got a video from Tristan, which we'll play now.
G'day everyone, Tristan here from Top Sport, and we're back up to round 8 now, and just going to give you a quick recap because I didn't get to do it on Sunday. There was quite a few big moves and plenty of action on the week just gone. The Manly-Melbourne game, that was by far and away our best result. There's a lot of punters on Melbourne. Manly proved that they can still turn up, and that Battle of Brookvale is a massive event. So that was a good one. The ugly result, though, was the Titans-Broncos, where there's a lot of money for the overs, a lot of money for the minors. Obviously, being in the lounge, that added a bit of salt into the wounds. So that was an ugly old watch the second half. They were competitive, the Titans, for a long time, but the Broncos were way too strong in the end. To rub a bit of salt into the wounds as well, we laid Cam Pereira to score 2+ tries at $5 for someone at 3,500, I think, on him, or 4,000 on him. So that was a nice little way to rub a bit of salt into the wounds at the end. And then to cap things off, we actually launched a promo, pick the crowd, and someone jagged the exact number for a 5K payout. So it was a tough old back half of the game there at Seabus Stadium. But Titans still played all right, a bit better than what we expected at the start of the year. So they moved to Redcliffe this weekend. There's plenty of good games on the weekend. The two first games, South Sydney against Penrith and the Eels against the Broncos, they're two cracking games. The pluses have been backed in both of those. The Lions jumped over that key number in the South game, 6.5 into 5.5. And then the Eels Broncos has gone 3.5 down to 2. So a couple of good moves there for the Roughies. Should be good games to start the weekend. And then I think the other game is that Titans game where AJ Brimson has been named in the extended bench. If he plays, there probably will be a push for the Titans. It's 2.5 there at the moment. We'll get stuck into the two Anzac Day clashes on Monday. They're going to be a couple of the lines are quite sizable, but can the underdogs lift like they have done in previous years in those games? So look forward to chatting everyone there. Hopefully you have a good weekend. Hopefully you back a winner, and of course gamble responsibly.
Great stuff there. Anything else before we kick on to the 6 games, Winnie?
No, let's jump into them. I feel like we've had a patchy start, but hopefully we can go some more smooth sailing and talk about some ripping games we got for round 8.
Yeah, good stuff. It kicks off on Thursday night, guys. The Rabbitohs taking on the Panthers at Accor Stadium. The line is set at -5.5 in the Panthers' favour. For South, Keon Kolomatangi is out, so Michael Cheekham comes in, and Thompson returns on the wing, so that pushes Tane Milne out of the lineup. For the Panthers, they're without Liam Martin, so Scott Sorensen is the starting lineup, and that brings Lindsay Smith onto the bench. I know you got a best bet on the Bunnies here, Jacob, so a chance to elaborate a little bit further.
Well, as I said before, beauty of a game to open the round. I think I said last week the Rabbitohs could be the form team of the comp in terms of level of play right at this moment. I'd still say the Panthers are the best team in the comp, despite the fact, of course, they only scraped the result in Newcastle last weekend. They both come in missing a key edge forward, as you said, Martin out, but as is Kolomatangi, arguably even bigger loss. It's another rematch. We have already seen this game. It must have been round 2, I think, and we were on Penrith in that one. First half line, if I recall, we won quite easily. I was tipping Penrith to bounce back after that loss to Brisbane, and they came out guns blazing and were leading 16-0, although the Bunnies did come back, but that was in Penrith. This one's at Accor. There's no James Fisher-Harris here either. In fairness, Souths are going to be short Junior Totola on top of Kolomatangi, but my point is, when I'd liked Penrith a few weeks ago against Souths were short some middle forwards. Now I feel like there's no disadvantage to either side in terms of troops. I will acknowledge that Penrith's probably still a little bit the better side, but not as much as this line. 6.5 being such a key number. I know Penrith will look to rebound. I think you made this point in the recap, Clarkey. They can kind of treat it like a loss, but still get the 2 points. Ivan called it their worst game of the year. But there's a true fatigue element to playing a game that you have to fight and scrap and claw for, 82 minutes. And it is a short turnaround. That game was only 5 days. 5 days before this one will kick off. So I just can't wait for this one. I think Souths can absolutely win. Like them with the start. The matchups are mouth-watering. Isaiah Yeo versus Cam Murray is a New South Wales starting lock jersey on the line. Trell versus Dylan Edwards. If Teddy was unavailable, who's the first choice Blues fullback? Walker versus Luai. I can't say Cleary is in a matchup because he's kind of in the world of his own, but Damien Cook's a better hooker than, either of Penrith's options. Anyone's game for me. That's why I take the points. Who are you picking?
I hate to go against you. I am going to go Penrith here. I hear all you, and this is like, we do this every week where when we split on tips, You're so great at what you do. You almost twist my arm and change my opinion with what I'm going. But I'm going the Panthers. I feel they're a slightly better side than they were, or at least they're rolling better than they were when these two sides met earlier this year. And the weird one with the draw, with being two teams matched up again quite recently. But the Panthers were fantastic in the fortnight leading up to that Nuts game, where by their own standards, they were disappointing. As I touched on the recap, I feel like they can almost use that as a loss, learn from it, and ensure it doesn't happen again. For South, there's no reason why they can't win it. But I always speak about their middles being able to get over the opposition, and that's what allows their best players to get into the contest. Against the Panthers, I'm not too convinced their middles will win. Now, their middles are improved. They've got some big names back. They looked great last week through Moali, Arrow, etc. But it's the Penrith Panthers, right? They are still the benchmark of this competition. So because I'm not entirely convinced their middles will win it over, therefore bringing Latrell and Cody into this game, I'm going to err on the side of caution and say the Panthers win. And I think that if the Bunnies aren't able to get it over in the middle, then we do see them play a frustrated brand of footy. Walker gets involved in push and shoves. They push offloads and passes they probably shouldn't. And we know that if you're doing that against the Panthers, then you are opening yourself up to a pretty nasty defeat with how classy they can be. But the Rabbitohs have not defeated the Panthers at a core stadium since 2017. That's that go in my favour. The Panthers have won 10 of their last 11 against the Bunnies. And I know this man is always a good shout for a try, Jacob, because we had him for our same game multi earlier this year. Stephen Crichton. He's got 7 tries and he's passed 8 against the Bunnies. So someone to consider there. All things considered, should be a very close matchup. An interesting one again, where we're on our opposite side of the fence here.
And I know it does sound like your internet connection is not the best. Sometimes it's hard to tell which end it is. We're not connecting perfectly, but I didn't catch your anytime try scorer, did I? Your take on Toppy.
Take on Toppy. That's in this one. We have Alex Johnston. Is it $2.40 odds, Winnie?
$2.40 on Toppy. That's best in the market.
Absolutely. $2.40 odds. Alex Johnston in my take on Toppy try scorer this week. He is a top 10, most likely anytime try scorer this week using the Wiki AI model. So definitely some great value there, in my opinion, at $40. We move to the next game. It's the Eels taking on the Brisbane Broncos at TIO Stadium in Darwin. The line is at -2 in the Broncos' favour. For Parramatta, they welcome Josh Hodgson back. That moves Brendan Hands to the bench and Makahesi Makatoa out. For the Broncos, they welcome back Tom Flegler and Corey Oates, and that moves Keenan Palacia and Jesse Arthurs out. Another best bet on this game, Winnie. You like the Eels in this one, so another chance to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I could pick the Eels winning this, although I'm kind of really split. But if I'm getting 2.5 points, it's enough points where I don't even need to feel strongly a team's going to win. I just think it's a coin toss. So this game being in Darwin is one of the reasons why Brisbane only has to travel to Sydney twice from round 2 to 27, because teams like Parramatta have opted to take some home games elsewhere. And while you would say Parramatta are familiar with Darwin and have played a few games there now and maybe building a bit of a supporter base, it takes away their home advantage of playing at CommBank and, making Brisbane be the only ones that have to travel. And the other thing is, I have no doubt Brisbane's going to have their fair share of support here. They've got supporters everywhere. Plus, my mind goes back to Darwin last year where I can't remember the exact score. I want to say 33-4, something of that magnitude. The Eels lost to the Cowboys. Now, we didn't know how good the Cowboys were a year ago, but to be fair, not many people knew how good Parramatta was last year. So that result is a shock and was a case of complacency, if memory serves me. It was a week after Parramatta had upset Penrith and might have been reading their press clippings because they got ambushed. That won't happen on this occasion. But on the other hand, Brisbane remembers the last time they played Parramatta, they got a 50 burger put on them at Suncorp. So I see both sides coming in with high motivation, up for it. You mentioned Flegler. It's a big in for Brisbane. You just got to start by asking the question, who's the better team? And the ladder is going to tell you Brisbane. The point spread is going to tell you that Brisbane, by virtue of being those slight favourites. But for me, it's a different question if you ask me who's going to finish higher, who am I more confident top 4? It's Brisbane, right? Because of the runs on the board. But who's the better team right now? I've still got to respect what Parramatta did last year. The fact that they've got some of those key forwards back that they didn't have at the start of the year. The fact that they had a horror draw. They've kind of gotten through the other side of that and got a pretty easy run the last couple of games. And I just think this game comes down to the kicking duel between Reynolds and Moses, which I think will be absolutely scintillating. So it's very similar to the Thursday game where I think it's a beauty. I'll take the underdog. I'm so stoked with the matches we've got Thursday, Friday. It makes up for only having one game on Friday. I think this one will be that good.
You mentioned the 50 bomb. Also worth noting, when the last time these two sides met in Darwin in 2021, the Eels did walk away with a 40-point victory there. So I am going to go the way of Para. I do think this game being in Darwin makes it a little bit more difficult to tip just because it's such unique weather playing conditions. And I don't like to tip strictly off stats, but the stats in this one do lead to the Eels quite heavily. The Eels have won 6 of their last 8 in Darwin, and they've won 7 of their last 8 against the Broncos. So it'll be a great matchup. It's a different Broncos side, so I don't read into that one as much as I do the 6 out in Darwin, where we know it can be quite unique weather conditions, hot, slippery, can rain at a minute's notice. I'm leaning towards Eels in this one. I do think that line in their favour as well is obviously handy. And I think both fullbacks could score in this second half as well, Winnie. I really think once fatigue sets into this one in both sides, that it'll bring the outside backs in and some try-scoring opportunities, particularly a bit later in that second half, maybe from the 60th minute mark onwards. And so from a punt perspective, if we're going to look at some try scorers in this, I'd be looking at second half tries, last try scorer, some sort of prop markets like that. And then, of course, Reece Walsh and Clint Gutherson speak for themselves in terms of just being involved in the game.
And I've got another bet for you because I've given out my 2 best bets for the round. So those are the games I want to incorporate my mixed matchup into. And this won't be a popular one because it is longer odds. But that's what we love sometimes. Juicy mixed matchup odds, longest of the season so far. And the reason we've won over 60% in 3 years at winning odds above $2.50 is because we've hit a good share of long shots. I'm going Rabbitohs to score more points than the Broncos. So one of the ways I look at it is Souths are 260 to beat Penrith. I think they're a real shot or go close. So if you're going to beat Penrith, I feel like they got to find 3 tries. I know they've got the firepower to do so. I know Penrith's not easy to score against, but 3 tries, you're scoring somewhere around maybe 18, maybe 20 points. And I think the Eels, as I reckon they're a live shot as well to win, can really restrict Brisbane probably to around the same. So $3.35, that is that mixed matchup. On Toppy with promo code TP Live if you need an account. Look, I can't say like I'm ultra confident like it's going to win more often than not like I would about a best bet. But $3.35, I love that price. You can have up to 100 on that. And I do want to still always accompany any tip or any kind of sign-up offer that we can provide with the message, what are you really gambling with? Free and confidential help is available with the number on the screen, which will pop up again, or gamblinghelponline.org.au.
I do like that one as well. You mentioned with the Panthers, well, most sides this year haven't scored 2 tries against them. I think the Knights had 3 last week, and these sides are all going down. So certainly you are going to need, it would seem, 3 or more against this Penrith outfit. So that I like that mixed matchup. It kind of feeds into itself, really. Next up, it's the Bulldogs versus the Core Stadium. The line is set at -14.5 in the Sharkies' favour. For the Doggies, Jacob Carraz is out. That brings Declan Casey onto the wing, and Braden Burns occupies the other wing with Jaden Ockenbaugh dropping back to the bench. No changes for this Sharks lineup. Line suspects this one might be a bit of a blowout. Winnie, do you see it that way?
It's one where it could be, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's more competitive than expected either. It's a very tough period of the season for the Dogs with the personnel losses they've sustained, coupled with a tough draw. Like they're playing contender after contender when they're at their thinnest. And that's fine for us. Last 2 weeks we've been against them for a best bet. We've won on teams that were, 8 to 10 point favorites, but the market always catches up because now you've got the Sharks at -14.5. It's getting a bit steeper to fade these Bulldogs. Cronulla have the luxury of naming the same 17 that beat the Roosters. Keep in mind, that's still no Dalfinukin or Toby Rudolph. More than enough to win here, obviously, and just pointing out they're not completely full strength. But Cronulla is this type of team that goes for the throat when they get momentum, which is always a worry if you're catching the points against them, because you can be in an arm wrestle for 60 or 70, but they may just put on a blitz of tries. So if you're on the Dogs, you've got to hope that they're going to keep their heads, even if the game gets a little out of hand. They've got to stick to the task. And that's where I see it being kind of high variance. Like, I do think like TPJ's just come back, looked all right. Preston's been awesome. King has had a good year. Can you find enough points to stick in the game? I actually think when you've got Burton, you've got Marnie, yes, maybe you can find a try here or there. So as I say, I wouldn't be shocked if the Dogs make this a close game. But on the other hand, everyone's talking origin selections. Nico might really want to make his case, be dialed in. And not on an origin front, but a couple of like players that I would say are not household names. But I don't know if you could give me, Clarkey, a better pair of second rowers than Teague Wilton and Britton Nakora, like teammates. If you could pick any other team's pair of back rowers, I think that's as strong as anyone in the competition right now.
Yeah, certainly on form. Off the top of my head right now, I can't think of anyone that's
comment.
Teague Wilton
hit us in the comments if someone else can.
Yeah, Teague Wilton in particular is a player that I've loved him for the last few years, and I almost felt as Wade Graham is he held him back a little bit last year. Teague's an out-and-out star. I think it's really tough to tip the Doggies here. Obviously, the line suggests that as well, because the last 2 weeks they have lost by considerable margins, and it kind of looked like that belief was gone. They did, particularly in the second half against the Bunnies and the Eels, and they were fighting, but the fight wasn't there as much as it could be. I think when you're playing discipline like that, Winnie, it will build up to a performance where kind of all the disappointment builds up and you break out with a great performance. The biggest example that I can probably think of was when the Tigers beat the Eels last year by that field goal. They lost 5 prior, they were disappointing, and it all just built up, and eventually it sort of explodes and that great performance comes out. I don't think the Doggies are quite adjusted yet, because it's only fresh with all these injury concerns that they are starting to build up. And I have real concerns over their back line. It's very makeshift. I can see Jarrell Skelton is named in reserves, as is Carl Olapau, their New South Wales players. And they're actually not named in New South Wales Cup this week. So to me, that indicates maybe they could be late debutants or players that come to the side, because usually a lot of your reserves do maintain their spot in New South Wales Cup. Jarrell Skelton is one to watch out for, Winnie. He looks great in reserve grade. But yeah, because of that back line, this is a big line, Winnie, but I think the Sharkies can cover it. I think they can. I feel like in that second half, Nico Hines is really going to pick it up, take it to the next level, and I have concerns over how makeshift his back line is. I mean, Jake Averillo's still named, for example. He could barely walk a week ago. He's still named there at centre. Data says that this round, the 2 most likely anytime try scorers are actually Ronaldo Mulatalo and Sione Katoa. So an option there to maybe multi them with the Sharkies' big win. For the stats in this one, Winnie, I've got the Bulldogs have won 4 of their past 6 at a stadium, but Sharks have won 9 of their past 11 against Doggies. So they're building quite a nice record there. Doggies have conceded 80 points in their past 2. Ronaldo Mulatalo has 7 tries in his past 5 games. And from the Bulldogs team in round 1, they missed players. So almost half their lineup out at the moment. So for that reason, I'm going to go Sharkies, Winnie, and I'm going to take them to cover that line. This will be an interesting one too, because this will be our better same game multi. Better helps make this show possible, as well as the Fox League Lab, which you can watch on the Better YouTube channel to get even more NRL analysis. We'll have a same game multi for this one. We've hit 3 of 6 so far this year. 1 at $7 odds, 1 at $7.50, and 1 at $8 odds. It'll be an interesting one as well, because there's a lot of try scorer possibilities there. But whilst we prepare that, guys, just remember to keep it real and ask yourself, what are you really gambling with? For free and confidential advice, call the number or visit the website, both on screen and in the description of this video if you are listening to the podcast at a later date. But yeah, we will cook one up for that one, won't we?
Well, I know what you did there. You put that in after the 3rd game, but because there's only one Friday game, My better same gamer will actually be Friday night footy, the prime time. So it will actually be Broncos Eels rather than that one, right? So it'll always be the Friday night encounter. And I'll be going the Eels direction, but I'll find something juicy. Guys, I always do. And you know what? Thursday night, a cracking game. Grand final rematch from a couple of years ago. Then Friday night, Eels Broncos is going to be really good. And Saturday, this next one, I'm really excited to talk about as well because it's another super tight one that I can't wait to watch.
Mate, I'm looking forward to this one as well. So it's the Cowboys at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The line is set at -2 in the Cowboys' favour. For the Cows, they're without Jason Darmalolo. That moves Ruben Cotter to lock and Jordan McLean returns at prop. For Newey, big inclusion. Kalen Ponga's back at 5'8". That moves Tyson Gamble to the bench. Kurt Mann starts at lock and Jacob Saifiti returns suspension. Now, I was interested in this one, Winnie, because I know you've been high on the Knights this year, but you haven't taken them for a best bet. I'll be completely transparent. I was really expecting you to take the Knights at the line on this one. Maybe a chance to say why you didn't?
Absolutely. So Siebes has commented their thoughts on the Knights folding due to heartbreak of last week. Felt that was a grand final, massive kitchen sink game. So I feel like Siebes is nearly stealing my notes. But I want to talk about the Cowboys first of all and then get back to Newcastle, who I've really liked this season. Okay, so the Cowboys are in strife at this point. They're not elite defensively like they were last year, which was allowing them to win games, sometimes even without scoring a lot. But then in attack, they're not the same side as well. They're not capitalizing on possession opportunities, which they had in a lot of these games. If they could have, they could have gone a lot closer the last 3 weeks. And I thought that getting a couple of kangaroo reps back last week could be the missing ingredient, along with Drinkwater, who'd been out prior to that, and having them all together. Didn't really help a lot New Zealand. They weren't up to it in terms of attacking execution. And now you lose the Tongan captain and their captain in Jason Taumalolo. So that's a big loss, albeit McLean is a welcome addition. So I've got to look extra closely at the Cowboys because everyone knows I've been on them the last 2 weeks for best bets. Now, in fairness, I look back at their whole season. They've played 7. They've only covered 1 of 7 games, which was actually the Titans game, which arguably at a line of 6.5, I said that week, they didn't deserve to cover that line. So they've been very unimpressive. I have bet against the Cowboys twice this year for 2 wins. I've been on them for 2 losses. And if we want to look a bit closer at the losses, you got the Hamiso try at the end of the second half after the Dolphins took an intercept. You got a conversion that went under the crossbar last week. And I would have had 2 winners on the Cowboys for those halftime bets. But I'm not bitter or anything. The thing I'm getting back to is the Cowboys are on the nose with the punters. They're on the nose with the pod followers. And there's probably a lot of people out there in tipping comps that have tipped them the last 3 weeks where they've been favourites or pick them at the highest odds. And they've lost all 3. But that doesn't take them off the board for me. I've seen the comments on no more Cowboys. Cowboys are in the bin. That's not how it works for me. I said this about the Bulldogs. Like, the market catches up. So not only do you find you get better odds on teams that are failing, they may actually be more desperate and more motivated, which actually can work in your favor. But the question I've got to ask, and I'm interested if you've got an answer or anyone in the comments, is there a fundamental flaw in this team this year? Because I can't put my finger on kind of why they're not as good. Maybe they're not full strength as last year. Like you missed Tom Gilbert. Maybe you didn't realize how big of a loss it was. Luciano Leilua is another. But I thought that Drinkwater coming back and then, Jeremiah Nanai could really help. It wasn't the case. So I would actually take the Cowboys if I had to bet this game because they're at home and I really feel it's a huge point in their season. And now I'm going to make the case against Newcastle as Siebes eloquently did before. It's a heartbreaking loss that the Knights have come off. It's an energy-sapping defeat. It's a long road trip to Townsville. You get your best player back, but everyone knows that integrating Ponga seamlessly when the Knights' style and identity was really working for them won't be easy. I know that I'm glad that they're bringing Ponga back at 6 because I think you've got to keep Miller at 1. So I'm glad they're not trying to flip that plan. I think Gamble remains great utility value. He can cover halves, hooker, maybe centers or back row at a pinch. But here's the other problem with the Knights, why I'm not on them, Clarkey. I said the Cows are 1-6 against the spread. The Knights are 5-2. Again, that's not wins, losses. That's with the line factored in. You know what? Here's how much the market has caught up to the Knights, Clarkey. 9 days ago, after beating New Zealand at the end of must have been end of round 6, the Knights were $6 to make the 8. And I came onto our recap and said, I think they're absolutely in the top 8 mix. Well, since then, what's happened? They lost their captain for the season. Yeah, he got the injury on the Sunday, but it wasn't thought to be that bad until it was reported it was an ACL. So you lose your captain and starting hooker for the season. Then you lose to Penrith. What are the Knights paying to make the 8 now? $4. So they've got a worse chance than they did 9 days ago, but their odds have come in. Only reason is because people are now starting to recognize what we both tried to tell you pre-season, that the Knights are a legit footy team. So the issue is when the market catches up to you, then where's the value? And that's why I don't think there's a great amount of value on the Knights. I give a shot, but the line is about right. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it.
I was going to ask you if there's a trap here, and you've pretty much summed it up there. And I just thought getting the Knights +2 just seemed a bit too good to be true. And just to address a comment there from Jake Meyer as well, the multis and stats I'm offering aren't written down anywhere for this. I've got a segment on my page called Pub Ammo, which is all the stats and interesting stuff for the round. They'll have the highest odds anytime try scorer, players to score their first NRL try, and forward to score the first try. So some opportunities there to build multis. I've kind of regretted it now, but I mean, I'll stick with how I was going before hearing that I was with the Knights. And that's because in their last 4 games, they've had 2 wins, a draw, and a devastating 1-point loss. So I feel like they are playing pretty consistently over the past month of footy. Certainly more consistent than the Cowboys, who have been disappointing for us on a few occasions. They've really impressed me in recent weeks. And so I saw the plus there straight away and thought, well, unless there's a trap, that has to be a bargain there. I do think people are being a little bit too hard on Kalyn Ponga. I see people saying he should be coming back by the bench. He doesn't suit their best lineup. He shouldn't be there. I still think Kalyn Ponga is a classy player. He did start the season in absolute best form, but we can't make the mistake. The Knights are a better side with him in their starting lineup, with what I've seen across his career anyway. At his best, he's one of the elite players in the game, and they still keep Tyson Gamble on the bench. In case they do want to swap around their spine or try something creative there. He will make his 100th NRL appearance as a winning against the club in which he debuted for. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of a mental edge there for KP to come back and have a great game and maybe inspire these Knights to victory. The real reason, though, that I'm not going to tip Cowboys here, they're without Jason Taumalolo. Since 2015, they've only won 36% of their games without him. So 1 in every 3 they lose when he's not available. He's not available in this one. I do think they're in a better position now, though, because players like Jordan McLean are playing better. Ruben Cotter can cover him, whereas in previous years, he was their go-to absolute gun forward. Do you read into that stat too much?
Yeah, it was close to a one-man team for a few years, so it's not the same case at this point in time. I'm glad you make the point about Ponga. So many people bagging him and saying, oh, the Knights are better off without him. It's like, hold your horses. He is still a star player. No one seems to remember. He's man of the match in Origin 3, which is a showcase of just about, many of the best rugby league talents on the planet. You can't fluke that. Ponga is a class player, and I hope he gets through unscathed, this season. And I'm excited to see how he can elevate this Knights side. Can I actually bring in some of these comments? We're getting heaps of comments. Luke says that the loss to the Panthers could be a confidence builder because they didn't think they could win, and some troops back, like, of course, Jacob Saifidi is back, and that's a big boost. Look, you do get confidence saying, look how we pushed the Premiers, but I still think you had that opportunity to win. It's an emotional letdown that you fought so hard, you fell short. Jeff says, North Queensland supporters are hurting right now. Liam mentions injured player theory, which is when one of your best players is injured, everyone else lifts, although he does say Lolo's past his best. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing. Clarkey, I thought Taumalolo was undisputedly the best forward in the comp for a few years. He's not anymore. He has kind of regressed to just being one of the best forwards. There's plenty others that have overtaken him, so losing him isn't as big. Blanchy says the bookies are begging people to take the Knights, so he's kind of agreeing that the spot might favour the Cowboys. Brendan asked if the Knights won last week, would they still be underdogs? I think that's a great question. I think had they pulled the full-blown upset, this could dead set be pick'em, because then you'd be so many more people would really be acknowledging their ability. James says no hammer, another reason for the Cowboys' struggles this year. I have definitely said that they will regret losing him, but you can't really make that the excuse because they're barely using him. He wasn't really part of the success. He was sitting on the bench for a lot of that. Alan says he thinks 2022 was a fluke, and we might have a bonus tip here from Matty O'Keefe, who likes Cowboys plus 12.5 next week against the Sharks. I often think if you're playing a week ahead, you've got to keep in mind how you think they're going to go this week. So Matty might obviously not think that the Cows will be disgraced this week. Two converted tries is handy. Sieb says, like your dad always says, this is his old rule, Senor Win, look for your money where you lost it. So since we've lost on the Cowboys the last 2 weeks, maybe they're the best bet this week. And maybe they are, to me, there is an element of I'm going to try and let them prove it now because I'm not sure what's going on with North Queensland. But thanks for shooting those comments through, guys. Christo Bliss says Nanai and Townsend have just been out of form. Agree with that. Lockie says every year people say stop betting on Team X after they don't cover for a couple of weeks, but you've got to be willing to take the ugly duckling. Amen to that. I'll throw it back to you, Clarkey. Very handsome duckling.
The thing about Jason Tamalolo is I completely agree that he doesn't seem to be at his best anymore. I saw a post yesterday. He's actually up in meters, post-contact, offloads, and tags. I didn't verify the post that I saw on Instagram, but I did see that post, and I found that I just couldn't believe it. I don't believe it.
It could be a case that we're so used to what he does that he doesn't wow us anymore. But I really believed like you wouldn't pick any forward in the competition ahead of him if you were like starting your own team. Now you wouldn't say that about him. So that's not meaning to knock him. But clearly the Cowboys have built a bit more depth around him. Therefore, they don't rely on him as much as they used to.
It was Payne Haas before Payne Haas was Payne Haas to put that forward now, in my opinion. We'll move on to the next one, guys. It's the Dolphins versus the Titans at Suncorp Stadium. The line is set in -2.5, I believe, in the Dolphins' favour. For the Dolphins, they get Felice Carfusi back at back, but that's because Kenny Bromwich is out suspended and Jared Wallace returns on the bench. For the Titans, a few changes to the back line. Aaron Schott has been dropped. That is Phillips to the centres and Jojo Fafita to the wing. And on the bench, Thomas McKaylee and Cleese Haas come in for Isaac Fa'asuamaleaui and Joe Vuna. I will preface this one, Winnie, by saying be careful what you say because I'll be next to you in the grandstand in this game. I'm only joking. But I also know who you're going to tip in this one, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, when we're both sitting at about an equal distance from the camera, or at least our images match up, but I don't know how big you are in real life. So we're going to meet in person for the first time. You're a larger-than-life character. It is the inaugural Winny Clarkey Cup. I've got some homework for the followers to celebrate this momentous occasion. We have got to come up with some sort of bet between us. So if you've got any ideas, shoot them in the comments now or in the comments anytime between now and Sunday. We will do something. We're going to be in attendance. I think we're going to be on the field after the game to award the Winny Clarkey Cup to the winning captain as well. So maybe we can incorporate it. I know 80% of your suggestions are going to be something to do with doing a shoey. So I'll be honest, I'm off the drink. So that's how seriously I take my performance with the pod. So if it's something other than sculling beers would be a preferable bet, but we've got to do something. Hit us with what you've got. These teams have both got to do something after losing by double digits last week. And you look at the ladder, the Finns are 8th. The Titans are 10th. Realistically, at the end of the year, I don't see either of them in the top 8. But if they were to make the 8, they have to win games like this, whoever they are. Like whether it is the Dolphins or the Titans, you got to look at games like against kind of evenly matched opponents who are both on the fringe, who are also on the fringe of the 8. Those are the ones you have to win. And I do find it really hard to split these teams. I'm looking position for position. You know what the difference was for me, Clarkey, is Jeremy Marshall-King, I think, is playing at a higher level than anyone at 9 for the Titans. It's not to say the Titans don't have any edges in any other specific positions, but I don't see anything major. I mean, if Fotuaika starts the game the way he did against Brisbane, you could say that Titans' starting front row is extremely formidable. But let's give credit to the Dolphins too. Their pack has played huge this year, and they started strong last week too, holding the Bunnies in check for at least the opening 40. Look, I think these teams are close to even, as I said. Then you got the Finns home crowd, and of course you got Winnie in attendance for the first time, and I'm probably their number one supporter. So I think the Dolphins are going to pull this out, but they may only be by 1 or 2 points. Line's 2.5. So if anything for value, there's a case to be made for the Gold Coast because I could see this going down to the wire. but I mean, I bleed red. So fins up.
I think we met in a trial game and it was a draw, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was a draw after 80 minutes in that trial.
Couldn't be
Jeremy
split.
Marshall King, mate, I've got to be honest. I did my New Zealand Kiwi side today. I put him at 9 over Brandon Smith. I moved Brandon Smith to lock. I haven't checked the comments yet, but I suspect a lot of people will be off that change. But he's in undeniable form. Right now, he is a better hooker than Brandon Smith on current form. And I think he fits in that side of the way. But it's a bold one, I admit that. Brimo, he is training at the moment. I'm not sure if he's going to return. He is named in reserve, so he could return if named an hour before kickoff. Fingers crossed he does. But, I mean, everyone knows who I'm going to tip here, and that's because I couldn't stand the thought of sitting next to you at Suncorp. Imagine I tip Dolphins and then Titan win. It'd be a,
No, we have to be cheering our team in the inaugural Winny Clarkey Cup.
So I've tried to think of some reasons why we might win this game. I can hear everyone laughing at home. I like the changes on our bench. I thought we were noticeably flat in that area in recent weeks. With the most respect poll to Isaac Fa'asul, Mala'au, and Joe Vuna, I don't feel like they were adding much spark off our bench, which we really do lose when guys like Tino and Moeki Fotuaika go back to the bench. We have put onto our bench Cleese Haas and Thomas McKaylee, who I think add a fair bit more spark and add a little bit more of their own style to the game, whereas Vuna and Tino's younger brother can, just they're new to their careers, so they go for that consistent approach. Haas and McKaylee, I feel like they add a little bit more there, so that's a bonus for us. And I just hope for the time we can really focus on that 5-minute period at either side of the half, because that's where we really let ourselves down against the Broncos. Prior to that, we were doing really well. I've got a sneaky anytime try story here, and it's going to surprise a lot of people, when probably yourself in. Jared Wallace. Now, he is coming back from a head injury, but it's not like he's been suffering from concussion symptoms. He actually passed the HIA in the sheds, and the independent doctor ruled him out. So it's not like he's been suffering from a concussion for this time, and I know he'll be desperate to get one back against the Titans. He always fired up when he was playing for us against the Broncos, his former club. I think he'll do the same here. Returning rested, the fact for the Titans, we can allow a forward try scorer from anything. In the case of Jordan Ricky, sometimes we even help them score. Maybe Jared Wallace for the last try scorer, and anytime try scorer could be a good one there. The Dolphins have conceded 96 points in their past 3 games. The Titans have won 2 of their last 3 at Suncorp. But for us, this goes against us. Wayne Bennett has won 11 of his 12 coaching against us. And Jesse Bromwich has won 15 of his last 17 playing for the Storm against us. Another try scorer, I don't mind this one, more of a serious tip than Jared Wallace. Alofiana Khan Pereira. He's got 7 in his past 5 and seems to be really finding his feet there in first grade. But yes, the first ever Winny Clarkey Cup, Dolphins, Titans will be there live. And I can't wait. This is going to be a great game.
Neither can I. How about just on, I don't even know if I can get that pronunciation as good as you, Alofi Khan Pereira?
Alofiana Khan Pereira.
Let me just call him Khan Pereira. So someone backed him with $4,000 for a double last week. And of course, he got that kind of fluky, really late try when, it was all over. So Tristan would have been there in person to watch that. One of us will be in person to have their heart broken in this one as well. But that's what it's all about. There's going to be one winner, one loser. So we'll find out on Sunday. Can't wait.
And of course, he came close to a double very early, but that try was disallowed. Last game we'll preview today, guys. Of course, we will be back on for the Tuesday games, but it's the Tigers versus Manly at Campbelltown Stadium. The line is set at -9.5 in the Manly Seagulls' favour. Give me 1 second. I've just alt-tabbed to the wrong thing. For the Tigers, Adam Dwayne is out. That brings Brandon Wakeham in. Jarrell Buller is named on the bench for his NRL debut. Sorry, he's named at fullback. Dane Laurie on the bench. Charlie Staines moves to the wing. Asu Karpola moves to centre. Jake Simpkin is out. Tommy Talau on the bench. For Manly, Josh Schuster and Ruben Garrick are back. Sean Kepi and Samuela Faenu join the bench. And Ethan Bullimore starts in place of Kelma Tulangi. Jeez, that was a mouthful. There we go, Winnie. Who have you got in this one?
I have to go Manly, but you guys know I talk about spots. So when I say a spot, it's like particular circumstances for a team to succeed. And sometimes there's good spots and bad ones and circumstances transpiring against the team succeeding. And that doesn't dictate the result. You've got to go out and play the game. And, and sometimes talent overwhelms a bad spot too. But this is a good spot for the Tigers purely because they're off the bye and they're the most criticised team in the competition by a wide margin. If they can't come out at Campbelltown and Sunday Arvo and rip in this game, people will be questioning whether they should still be in the comp at all. And I'm probably being too harsh considering West only lost their last game by 6 to Parramatta. So, and not to mention the stat that I've brought up a couple of times, West are outscoring opponents this season in all 6 games combined if you just count second halves. And that's not like really cherry picking, just in this period. Like that's full second halves. There's something to be said for that. So West are probably a team we should be looking to bet on from an underrated perspective. However, I question the lineup again. Like Laurie still can't get a job at fullback. Mind you, I don't know much about the debutant. Tommy Talau also on the bench, so you got a second outside back there. It's really not about the selections because I don't really pretend to know more than what these clubs do about when they pick their best lineup. It's a lot about Manly for me. A friendly 9-day turnaround for this one, so it slightly negates the benefits of the Tigers bye. And Manly failed last time. They were big favourites, of course, when they played Newcastle. So they won't underestimate West, which, that's a key for an upset when the favourites come in with complacency. I don't expect that. Plus, Tommy Trbojevic got through 80 against the Storm, and I needed to see that to kind of trust Manly again. And then Schuster playing back this week. And, there's rumours that the Tigers want to throw big money at him, so he could be in for a big game. And my mind casts back to when Benji gave him that glowing compliment. It was the best debut we'd ever seen was Benji, laying the breadcrumbs even back then to try and get this guy as his marquee signing for the new era. I don't know, but I could see Manly playing really strong here and just being too much for the Tigers, even if they do show up. So the best bet for this probably, it's not official, but probably you should go Manly 1-12 because West might find a way to keep it close, but we all know they'll also find a way to blow it.
Yeah, I'm surprised you went the 1-12 way. I would have thought you would have gone, knowing you, first half minus whatever we could get for Manly there to sort of blow them off the park in the first half. Whatever happens in that second happens. Any interest on that?
Well, I could just as easily see West coming out fierce, but being overwhelmed by Manly, who are the stronger side. I kind of like underdogs more so in the first half than favourites. So when I say maybe you play Manly 1-12, that's actually because I think the Tigers are the slight value in this. But sometimes if I like an underdog, I may actually play the favourite 1-12 because I think they can keep it close, so that makes sense. But that's more just me throwing it out there. I mean, you shop around for that. I can't tell you, maybe $3.50 range, which is pretty solid.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've got to tip Manly here. I don't think anyone's too surprised to hear that. I'm sure Tim Sheens has a plan, but the selection of a fullback and a centre on the bench, not really sure how they're going to use him, Laurie, with the kid on debut, getting Tommy Talau into the game. Also, maybe Kappa shifts into the back row again. And Talau goes there. But there's going to be some movement across the Tigers' back line throughout this game, that's for sure. As for their debutant, Jerome Buller, I couldn't find too much, Winnie, but I found this year in New South Wales Cup, he's played 3 games, averaging 190 metres and 4 tackle breaks. Personally, I'd still prefer Dane Laurie, but I am excited to see a young fella get his chance. I can't tip Tigers here. Sorry, Tigers fans. I like Turbo to score anytime at Manly 13+. And I saw someone else like that tip as well in the chat. It was Joseph on Facebook. He likes Manly 13+ and Tom Trbojevic to score as well. The Tigers have lost their last 5 games in a row at Campbelltown Stadium. Not too much of a home advantage, you could say. The Seagulls have scored 150 points in their last 4 games against the Tigers. So a lot of points, unfortunately. And Tom Trbojevic, I mentioned him. He's got 5 tries in his last 6 against the Tigers there. So I don't mind to score Manly 13+. Sorry, Tigers fans, but I can't see how the misery ends in this one.
We can probably go and watch this one at a pub somewhere after the Winny Clarkey Cup, after the come down, even though one of us might be in tears. But That's the least competitive game. Oh, sorry, you got Sharks, Bulldogs. You got a couple of quite wide spreads, and then you got 4 really small spreads and some really competitive action. Albeit bunnies are like a converted try tomorrow night, but I see that one going down to the wire. So look, that's just 6 games, but we still went a solid 50 minutes here because we had so much to say about them. Then you got Monday off. That's when we will come back and do our recap, as well as a combo mini prediction pod, because there'll be a double header. Of course, it is Dragons Roosters and Warriors Storm taking place on Tuesday, the Anzac Day, which is a public holiday. So you got to wait till then. We're going to kind of make you wait for that one, leave you guys wanting a little bit more. Hopefully the bets this weekend make you guys want to come back and watch us on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Monday, a recap of the first, as Winnie said, and we will preview those 2 massive Anzac doubleheader, which we can't wait for. But until then, guys, hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week. Hope everyone enjoys their weekend. Maybe we get an extra long weekend, taking the Monday off work with the Tuesday as a public holiday. But we're looking forward to seeing you on that Monday. So thanks for being here, guys. We'll see you then. Cheers.
Fins up!